My name is Christopher Rudzik. For the defense, I will be cross-examining Carson Durston, direct examining Dr. Devin Williams, as well as delivering the closing argument.
Permission for our witnesses to introduce themselves.
Permission granted. Thank you, counsel.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Sophia Weinecht, and I am Skylar Weirs.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Anna Nordlander, and I am Blake Doncourt.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Peter Heitman, and I am Dr. Devin Williams.
Thank you. At this time, the court is going to swear in all the team members, the gallery, the scoring panelists, and all of the witnesses. So I'm going to ask each one of you to please stand and raise your right hand. Starting with team members, please raise your right hand. Team members, do you promise that the presentation you are to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and the rules of mock trial competition? Witnesses, please raise your right hand. Do you promise that the testimony you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to your witness statements, that you will not add material facts or opinions which are not contained in the case problem, and that you will follow the rules and procedures of mock trial competition? All right. Any gallery members? We'll just do it anyway. Gallery members, including teachers and attorney coaches, family members, and friends, please raise your right hand. Do you promise to represent yourselves as positive role models and to behave in a manner that exemplifies ethical and professional sportsmanship during and after the mock trial round? Just say I do. And scoring panelists, please raise your right hands. Do you promise to adjudicate the mock trial competition as fairly and objectively as possible in accordance with the facts, procedures, and the rules of mock trial competitions?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. All right. Opening statements, starting with the plaintiff. So counsel for Team Lily, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, opposing counsel, and members of the jury. My name is Vasudha Goyal, and I'm here with my co-counsel to prove to you that Lush fertilizer is the cause of Dakota's non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Today, we will see Lush fertilizers try to convince us that their product isn't the cause of my client's cancer, but this is simply false. Lush fertilizer's usage of Drufo in its products caused my client to develop non-Hodgkin lymphoma. The company tried to hide the health effects from Drufo while fully aware of the dangers it presents with the chemical. You will see their CEO, Blake Doncourt, fake innocence and feign ignorance to the problems and dangers he presented. In the case of Skylar Weirs, she was just trying to get back at her sister and her family for not paying her gambling debts. The Drufo in Lush's products was not properly handled and has led to my client's illness. This illness has caused my client to be unable to do many things and become unable to pursue their dreams, and Lush fertilizers needs to be held accountable. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. All right, counsel for Team Rose, opening statements.
Your Honor, members of the jury, may it please the court. My name is Katie Greenfield, and I represent Lush Fertilizer, the defendant in this case. Ladies and gentlemen, irresponsibility has grave consequences. In this case, the plaintiff was irresponsible when she chose to be comfortable by neglecting the proper precautions she knew she should have taken when dealing with Drufo. The plaintiff, Dakota Weirs, has brought forth a negligence claim against my client. Dakota has been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma, a horrible condition. While the defense offers sympathy for what has happened to Dakota, we disagree with her claim. She believes that 1, Lush fertilizer contains a chemical bonding agent called Drufo. True. 2, Lush fertilizer knew or should have known that Lush causes non-Hodgkin cancer. And 3, Lush's failure to properly warn its users about the dangers of its product is the sole cause of Dakota's cancer. However, at the end of this trial, once you have heard all of the evidence, it will be apparent that a verdict of not liable is the only appropriate verdict. The defense denies that Drufo causes non-Hodgkin lymphoma. We counter that even if it does, which we deny, Dakota Weirs was also negligent for failing to wear protective clothing and a respirator while using our product. There is no proof that the chemical from our fertilizer caused her cancer, but even so, Dakota had the responsibility to use reasonable care when working with our fertilizer. When you hear all of the evidence presented to you today, I want you to keep two main things in mind. One, the plaintiff was fully aware of the precautions she should have taken when working with a fertilizer like Lush. And two, Drufo is a revolutionary product that is far better for the planet and for people using other fertilizers on the market. Today, you will hear from three of the plaintiff's witnesses. You will hear from the plaintiff herself, Dakota Weirs, the lead product developer for Terrace Greenery, Carson Durst, and a professor at UC Berkeley, Dr. Casey Rogers. Dakota Weirs will testify that the sole cause of her non-Hodgkin lymphoma is due to her use of Lush fertilizer. However, she will admit that she was told to cover her face and wear long clothes when working with the chemicals. She chose comfortability when she was specifically told to cover her face and wear long clothes. She knew that she should have taken the proper precautions, and yet she still chose to put herself in harm's way. Carson Durst will testify that he worked his way up fast within Lush. Lush hired Carson straight out of college at ASU. You will hear that Carson got a lot of complaints and had to go on a performance improvement plan, or probationary status. When you hear what Carson will say on the stand today, I want you to ask yourself this question. Is Carson actually qualified, or is it because of his relationship with the Dawn courts? Dr. Casey Rogers will testify for the first time as an expert witness this afternoon. You will hear about a study she conducted that to her proves that Drufo is unsafe and is what caused the plaintiff's cancer. However, you will come to hear that her study has never been published in a scholarly article, has never been peer-reviewed, and has never been replicated. You will hear that this study is problematic because of its small sample size that compares apples to oranges. Then you will hear from our three witnesses. First, you will hear from Skylar Weirs. From Skylar, you will hear how Drufo is undoubtedly good for the environment. Drufo does not need to be applied as often as other fertilizers, meaning there's less nitrogen penetration and fewer carcinogenic pesticides. Next, you will hear from Blake Doncourt. From Blake, you will hear how Carson's claim about the safety of Drufo didn't come up until Carson was fired and started working for Terrace Greenery, Lush's biggest competitor. You will hear how Carson could have brought up these claims while he was working for Lush, and it was actually his job to do that. Last, you will hear from Dr. Devin Williams. From Dr. Devin Williams, you will hear that Drufo users have no higher risk of developing non-Hodgkin lymphoma than users of other fertilizers. Dr. Williams proves this by walking through the process of eutrophication. You will hear that not only is Drufo safe, but Drufo is also beneficial to the environment and its users. Ladies and gentlemen, irresponsibility has grave consequences. In this case, the plaintiff was irresponsible when she chose to be comfortable by neglecting the proper precautions she knew she should have taken when working with Drufo. The plaintiff has the responsibility to prove beyond a preponderance of evidence. Not liable is the only appropriate verdict. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. All right, from the plaintiff, you want to call your first witness?
Yes, I would like to call Dakota Weirs to the stand.
Go ahead.
So please state your name. Oh, may I begin?
You may.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Dakota Weirs, W-E-I-R-S.
Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Well, a year ago, I would have said that I was happily living out my dreams at Juilliard playing the piano. But now I can't really say that. Music is was a huge part of my life. I have been playing the piano ever since I was a kid, after all. But I guess before all of that, I was also very involved in my community.
Why did you lose touch with the piano, Ms. Weirs?
To put it simply, I developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which has inhibited me from being able to play the piano.
I'm sorry to hear about that, Ms. Weirs. Was the piano important to you?
Yeah, playing the piano has always been a huge part of my life. If not for my diagnosis of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, I could have seen myself playing it for the rest of my life. My acceptance at Juilliard giving me the big push to jumpstart my career in music.
Objection narrative.
Response, counsel?
May I talk to my co-counsel, Your Honor?
Sure.
Okay. Your Honor, I am laying foundation for my case.
Okay, go ahead.
Could you tell me more about playing the piano?
Yeah, I've been playing the piano ever since I was a kid, like I said before. And honestly, it holds a special place in my heart because it often reminds me of my granddad. And honestly, some of the best childhood memories I've ever had. Skylar had their writing and I had my music.
Were you close with your grandfather?
My grandfather was
Relevance, Your Honor.
Counsel,
Again,
response?
this leads up to my later questions, Your Honor.
Court's going to overrule, but try to get to the point.
Yes.
My grandfather was actually the one who introduced me to the piano. He was also a very accomplished piano player. And if I'm being quite honest, I think I started playing to be a little closer to him.
So are you and your twin Skylar close?
Skylar and I may have our differences. We are siblings after all. However, before all of that, we're twins, and that bond will never break. Despite our occasional differences and her many endeavors, my family and I have always given them the utmost support.
How do you say your relationship is with the rest of your family?
I would consider my family fairly close. My parents have always been supportive of my music and helping me in my battle with non-Hodgkin's, which I'm forever grateful for. In fact, my dad was actually the one who really helped me see the
Objection
connection.
narrative.
Counsel, response?
Your Honor, I'm trying to lay a foundation. I'm sorry, we can try to get to the point a bit faster.
Go ahead, counsel.
In fact, my dad was actually the one who helped me see the connection between Drufo and my current situation. And my parents have also been pretty supportive of Skylar as well and helped them with their financial debts of gambling until it was too big of a financial strain for them.
So your twin had some gambling debts.
Correct. Skylar had many extracurriculars, one of them being gambling. Unfortunately, she did not fare very well in that activity.
Were your parents paying for these debts?
Yes, our parents were pretty supportive and were paying for her debts until it became too big of a strain for them.
But your parents are paying for your medical bills?
Correct. My parents are also paying for my medical debts, which I'm very grateful for.
Okay, moving on from your family, could you tell us more about your non-Hodgkin lymphoma?
The worst part about being diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's is to come to terms with the fact that my passion could potentially come to an end. Despite trying to be optimistic about the fact that I could make a recovery, I know in my heart that my music will never be the same. Losing the ability to do something I love every single day is like living a nightmare that I can't get up from. The only thing I hope that will come out of this situation is awareness. Awareness so that others like me don't suffer the same consequences of ignorance.
How has this all affected you?
Well, my lack of energy has affected me the most. Much like other pianists, I used to be able to practice the piano for hours every day, perfecting each piece. And especially for intensive programs at Juilliard, having the energy to be able to consistently practice is essential in thriving in a program like that. Unfortunately, my decision to not accept my spot in the program is exactly for my current lack of ability to keep up with the rigorous regimen of a pianist anymore.
Moving on from your inability to play piano, did you ever do any other extracurriculars?
Despite my piano commitments, I was the student body president and involved in many national honor societies at my school. I also went to the homeless shelter because I love
Next
giving
relevant.
back to my community.
Stop. Response, counsel?
Moving on, I will move on, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel.
So you had worked for a landscaping company. Could you tell us more about this?
Yeah, I actually started landscaping around the time I was 14 years old. It became one of my favorite hobbies, honestly. And Havens had a very easygoing environment. We could basically do whatever we wanted while enjoying the luxury of the great outdoors and getting paid.
And during this time, you were exposed to lush fertilizer.
Correct. I was introduced to lush fertilizer through my job in landscaping. Much like my coworkers, I wasn't made aware of the truth behind the rather dangerous product. If we were, we certainly would have taken more precautions to save ourselves from the exposure that Drufo so requires.
Did your landscaping company ever inform you about the dangers of lush?
Havens provided us with no additional warnings or precautions to take in regards to lush fertilizer. It was precisely for this reason why everyone, not just me, had taken the handling of it so casually.
Do you have a history of being exposed to lush?
Other than my job at landscaping, I was not exposed to lush fertilizer at all in my daily life. I mean, that's what really helped me draw the connection between the two. Skylar is living proof for our difference in our lifestyles.
Could you explain what you mean by living proof?
See, one of the reasons that really helped me corroborate my reasoning for why lush is the reason behind my cancer is my twins' lifestyle. Other than the harmful chemicals that lush has proven by many different experts, Skylar's genetics also holds a strong argument. We are twins, and genetically, our susceptibility to illnesses should be the same. The only difference between us and our lifestyles was landscaping.
Thank you, Your Honor. That will be all.
Thank you, counselor. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Weirs. Let's begin by discussing your enjoyment in playing the piano. You play the piano, correct?
Correct. I have been playing the piano ever since I was a kid.
And you received a scholarship from Juilliard, correct?
Yeah, after many years of hard work, I did get accepted to Juilliard.
And though you did not take the scholarship, it still stands for 2 years, correct?
Correct. And my doctor and I are optimistic that I'll be able to make a recovery, though I didn't think it would be good enough for me to hold my position at Juilliard.
Okay. Now let's discuss your landscaping career. And you have experience in landscaping for how many years?
Yeah, so I started when I was 14, so it would be around 7 years now.
And you stated that you love the outdoors and feeling the wind hitting your bare face, correct?
Correct. I just love spending time outside, and gardening was a great escape.
So you would not wear protective face coverings while landscaping, correct?
Yeah, me and a lot of other coworkers at Havens did take the handling of protective gear pretty casually.
And your boss had instructed you to wear face covering as well, correct?
However, we were never mandated for that, nor provided with any protective gear.
But you were supposed to wear long sleeves, pants, face covering, and gloves while you were working with the fertilizer, correct?
But Havens never provided us with any protective gear to be able to do so.
But you were told to wear protective clothing because of the chemicals, right?
Correct, but never mandated.
And use several fertilizers and lawn chemicals, correct?
Correct, but I only started seeing symptoms of non-Hodgkin's after I started using lush fertilizer.
These other chemicals and fertilizers could have potentially been harmful, correct?
However, I did only start seeing my symptoms after I used lush fertilizer.
Well, did the other fertilizers you used have warning labels?
Correct, they did.
You stated that your boss recovered Exhibit 1 as a label during your time of use, correct?
Correct.
Please refer to Exhibit 1. Dakota Weirs, do you have a clear and unmarked copy in front of you?
Sorry, Your Honor. Could I get a couple of minutes to get the exhibit?
Counsel, any response?
Permission to stop the time, Your Honor?
All right, that request will be granted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
2 minutes, please.
Thank you, Your Honor and Counsel. I have received the exhibit.
Please proceed.
Dakota Weirs, what is this?
It is a warning label for Lush fertilizer.
Does this exhibit fairly and accurately depict the label that you saw?
Correct, it does.
Your Honor, the defense moves to admit Exhibit 1 as evidence.
Objection. She didn't submit the objection, Your Honor. The exhibit was not submitted into evidence.
Counsel, response?
Your Honor, I'm laying the foundation in order to submit this into evidence.
Any,
Sorry about that, Your Honor.
any further record, counsel?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 1 will be
This label directly states to use protective clothing with exposed skin, a face mask, and to wash your hands before and after use, correct?
Correct. However, we were not explicitly informed this by Havens Landscaping.
But the label does state this, correct?
Correct.
You suspect you received non-Hodgkin lymphoma because you and your sister Skylar experienced similar things except for the landscaping job, correct?
Yes, however, I also did see many news articles and did prior research with other experts claiming that non-Hodgkin's was caused by Lush fertilizer as well.
And you say Skylar has done extensive research on Drufo, correct?
Skylar did do extensive research on Drufo and did many other experts claiming that it was dangerous.
And for this next question, yes or no answer will suffice. Your sister Skylar is testifying against you, correct?
Correct.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
thank you, counsel. Any redirect?
Yes, please, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Okay, so may I begin?
You may.
So, Dakota, everyone working at Havens disregarded this rule to cover up.
Correct. No one wore any protective gear and took the handling of fertilizers very casually.
And the fact that your twin is against you in this case has nothing to do with your standpoint.
Correct. Like I said before, Skylar and I may have our differences, but I've always shown her the utmost support along with my parents in her many endeavors.
Okay, thank you. That'll be all, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, counsel. Any recross?
No, Your Honor.
All right, this witness is excused. Thank you. Counsel, your next witness.
Your Honor, may I present Carson Durst to the stand?
You may.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Carson Durst, D-U-R-S-T.
Mr. Durst, can you tell us a little bit about your professional life?
I'm currently the lead product developer for Terra's research and development team. I oversee Terra Greenery's development of its fertilizers and lawn enhancement products.
And what are your educational qualifications for this job?
I started my career working as an intern on the research and development team for Lush Fertilizer.
And how did you start this career?
I started working as an intern for the research and development team for Lush Fertilizer.
Moving on, Mr. Durst, what was your connection to the Doncourts?
The Doncourts were a family to me. The oldest child of the Doncourts, Charles, and I were very close.
Mr. Durst, since you were quite close with the Doncourts, did that ever affect your work ethic?
No, my relationship with the Doncourts did not affect my work performance at work.
And going back to your professional life, Mr. Durst, what was your involvement in Drufo?
In 3 months of working for Lush Fertilizer, I earned the full-time position as product development engineer. The first big assignment was working on Drufo. When I joined, they were in the process of testing the safety and bonding of the agent.
After the safety that Lush Fertilizers themselves committed, did you feel any concern of the product appearing in appearing in the fertilizer?
After a study in December of 2003, we had concluded our analysis on Drufo. We had concluded not only may Drufo be carcinogenic, contain a carcinogen, but it was maybe linked with non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
How different were the results from Lush's study than from the external report you submitted?
In September, we got word that we were doing another in-house study on whether Drufo was potentially carcinogenic in humans.
Your Honor, I move to submit Exhibit 4 into evidence. The authenticity of has been stipulated.
Any record or objection?
Yes, Your Honor, lack of foundation.
Overruled. That exhibit will be admitted.
What is this a picture of, Mr. Durst?
It is a picture of an email sent by Mr. Jerry Langley talking about the in-house study outcomes.
And Mr. Durst, may you read the second paragraph?
Following our lab's June Drufo study, concerns have arisen regarding generalized findings of potential carcinogenic qualities identified in samples produced during a period earlier in the year. So we are reinitiating the studies in coming weeks with fresh product samples.
Objection, Your Honor. This is hearsay due to the fact that it has not been admitted as evidence yet.
Response.
I just submitted this as evidence, Your Honor.
Overruled. Please continue.
And Mr. Durst, did this concern you that Drufo itself was concerned about carcinogenic qualities of the Drufo?
Yes, it did concern me that maybe Drufo had carcinogenic abilities.
And Mr. Durst, you were involved in these studies, yes?
Yes, I was.
And what did the findings of the study report?
In the email, it was sent, it conveyed worries from upper management about its ability to be carcinogenic.
That is all, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead, sir.
So you spoke of your relationship with the Doncourts, and you say that they were like the family that you never had. Is that correct?
Yes,
And although you deny these claims, do you agree that there's the possibility that you were hired because of your relationship with the Doncourts?
yes, I was probably hired on my relationship with the Don Courts, but I was probably most likely hired due to my bachelor's in chemical engineering.
Thank you. And you were struggling to find work until the Doncourts, who owned Lush Fertilizer, pulled some strings and they hired you at Lush. Is that correct?
Yes,
And you said that you started to suspect some foul play within Lush regarding Drufo. Is that correct?
yes,
But you said that you'd been concerned about Drufo's safety for quite a while.
yes. And I tried to bring up these reports to upper management, but they wouldn't listen.
But after doing so, you made no attempt to contact any sort of authorities or healthcare government or officials. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. And were you also put on a performance improvement plan?
yes, I was.
And it got so bad, your job working at Lush got so harsh, the environment, that you immediately started to look for another job. Is that correct?
Yes, because no one was respecting my professional opinions, and I did not feel comfortable with the company anymore.
Okay. And after your conversation that you spoke about with Blake Doncourt, you described yourself as confused and betrayed by someone that you were previously extremely close with. Is that correct?
Question.
I'm sorry?
Objection, compound question.
Okay.
Response, counselor?
May I rephrase?
You may.
After the conversation that you had with Blake, you described yourself as confused and betrayed by someone you were close with. Is that correct?
At the time, the entire company was not respecting and shunning my professional and personal opinions about Lush Fertilizer. And I did not feel comfortable with being with the company anymore.
Okay. And when you were fired from Lush, you got a job at Kara's Greenery. Is that correct?
Yes,
But there was not any way for you to pass any of Lush's trade secrets to Tara's Greenery. Is that correct?
yes, we went to court and settled it.
Okay. And you couldn't do any of these, or you couldn't pass any secrets because of your non-compete agreement. Is that correct?
Yes, but why would I pass secrets?
Of course. And could you please view Exhibit 5? Do you have a copy in front of you?
Yes, I do have a copy of Exhibit 5.
And do you recognize this document?
Yes, this is our non-compete agreement.
And is this a fair and accurate representation of your non-compete agreement with Lush Fertilizer?
Yes,
Your Honor, permission to enter Exhibit 5 as evidence.
Any objection, counselor?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 5 will be admitted.
And so, sorry, to reassert, this says that you couldn't give any information that you gained from working within Lush or any sort of Lush's, as said earlier, trade secrets, and you couldn't help Tara's Greenery in any way by giving them any of this information. Is that correct?
yes, but I wouldn't want to give any information away. I just wanted a new job because I was fired and fertilizer was one of the only things I've ever worked on. So it's what I knew the best.
Okay, and are you still, you're still pretty angry with the way that you feel Lush treated you. Is that correct?
At the time in Lush, they were sending bad performance reports and not respecting my professional opinions at the company.
And you're
I personally did not want to stay with the company anymore.
okay, I'm sorry about that. And you're still pretty upset with Blake's almost betrayal of you. Is that correct?
No, because at the time, Sorry, cut off there. No,
But you do feel betrayed by Blake. Is that correct?
no, I do not.
Not at all. You don't feel like he mistreated you in any way.
No.
No. Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
All right, thank you, Counselor. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Mr. Durst, were you at all involved in the hiring process of your job at Lush?
No, I was not involved with my hiring at Lush.
Mr. Durst, when you were looking and after your conversation with Mr. Doncourt, where he did not listen to your opinions, you essentially were just looking for a new job, yes?
Yes, because I was not respected at the company for my professional opinions.
And Tara's Greenery just happened to have openings.
Yes.
That is all, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Counsel. Any recross?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Durst, I'm sorry to ask this question again. I just need to reassert this. You were, for all through your life, very close with Blake Doncourt. Is that correct?
Yes, I was very close with the Doncourt family, and Charles was my best friend.
Okay. And in your witness statement, did you not say that you had a conversation with Blake Doncourt in his office about your mistreatment at Lush?
Yes, I did have a conversation about it.
Okay. And after this conversation, were you in any way upset with Blake for his treatment of you?
I was upset with the company for not respecting any of my opinions that I offered. So I did not feel comfortable with working at the company anymore.
But did you not say in your witness statement that you felt betrayed by someone that you were very close with, Blake Doncourt?
Can you rephrase that question, please?
I'm sorry. Is your testimony that you in no way felt betrayed by Blake Doncourt an accurate representation of how you feel?
I felt betrayed by the company for removing me and
Objection
firing
relevant.
me.
Response, Counselor?
Your Honor, I am trying to call back to the witness statement as I'm about to do and bring to the point that he actually did state earlier that he does feel betrayed by Blake Doncourt.
All right, so that would be asked and answered. Sustained. Move forward, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. Do you recall giving a statement before this trial?
Yes.
And that statement was made under oath. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you swore to tell the truth. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And did you tell the truth in that statement?
Yes.
And so in that statement, did you not say that after your conversation with Blake Doncourt, you felt betrayed? Your Honor, should I call to the page number of that?
It may be helpful for the witness. Please do so.
Yes, Your Honor. Give me 1 second. So should I read it out loud?
Sure. Yes.
Okay, so let me find. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. So on page 22, around line 129, we have, or 128, I'm sorry. I left Blake Doncourt's office disheartened, but by the time I got back to the lab downstairs, I was seething. I felt confused and betrayed, and by someone who had just claimed, it was like I was part of their family. I'm sorry. I have no further questions. I'm sorry.
All right, thank you, Counselor. All right, this witness is excused, counsel. If you want to call your next witness, please.
Your Honor, I would like to. Your Honor, I would like to call Dr. Casey Rogers to the stand.
All right, go ahead, ma'am.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
My name is Dr. Casey Rogers, Rogers.
And could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm a professor at the University of California, Berkeley in horticulture and entomology. I currently teach introductions to horticultural entomology, food crops, and herbicide selectivity in action.
Could you tell us a bit about your educational background?
I got my degree in agriculture and chemistry from CSU, and I have a PhD in agriculture and entomology from UC Berkeley.
Could you tell us about your experience in the field?
Prior to starting my PhD program, I worked as a research analyst for a multinational chemical company. Since earning my PhD, I've worked as a professor for UC Berkeley.
And what about your work as a professor?
As a professor, I have performed multiple research studies and published numerous scholarly articles on my findings, 4 of which are involving Drufo. Much of my research is on the effects of prolonged exposure to different chemicals. My previous research has been used in litigation before administration advisory boards and to make recommendations to companies and regulatory agencies.
Your Honor, I would like to admit Dr. Casey Rogers as an expert witness in horticulture and entomology.
Any objection, Counselor?
Permission to voir dire briefly.
Permission granted.
Good afternoon, Dr. Casey Rogers. This is your first time testifying in court as an expert, correct?
Yes,
I see you have an extensive education.
I do.
And your education includes a PhD in agriculture and entomology.
Yes, from Cal.
And this background in agriculture must have helped contribute to the plaintiff's understanding of these harder, essential scientific concepts, considering everything, considering it revolves around all of this, correct?
I'm a little, would you mind rephrasing?
Sure. This background in agriculture must have helped contribute to the plaintiff's understanding of these harder scientific concepts, correct?
I'm sure the plaintiff is perfectly capable of understanding the science behind Drufo, but yes, I am here as an expert witness to testify on Drufo.
Can you please define modern agritech?
Modern agritech, it's the study of the technology of agriculture and how how it affects agriculture, like fertilizers.
Okay, thank you. No objection, Your Honor.
This witness will testify as an expert witness. Thank you.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes, you may, Counselor. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Rogers, could you tell us how you came to work with Drufo?
Drufo quickly caught my attention after hitting the market. I think Lush Fertilizer did not perform sufficient research on its safety, so the product could be rushed to market. So I decided to perform my own research.
Could you tell us about your study with Drufo?
My study included a control group that was not exposed to Drufo, a second group that has been exposed to Drufo on occasion, and a third group that regularly worked with Drufo, like farm laborers or gardeners. We monitored the different groups for years following exposure, and the various groups were examined for health conditions and compared to the control group.
What were your results for the study?
Sadly, we did find that Drufo did in fact lead to an increase in serious health conditions in individuals. Specifically, the study showed a higher incidence of cancer, including non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
Could you further elaborate on what your results meant?
My study showed that prolonged exposure made people 10 times more likely to be diagnosed with cancer, and occasional exposure to Drufo led to a 5 times increase in cancer diagnosis. This means there's a major correlation between the exposure to Drufo and cancer.
Could you tell us what you know about non-Hodgkin lymphoma?
Non-Hodgkin lymphoma is a type of cancer that affects the lymphocytes or white blood cells. and the cancer can start anywhere in the blood that contains the lymph tissues and spreads throughout the body.
And is non-Hodgkin's lymphoma genetic?
No, non-Hodgkin's is not genetic and is usually caused by exposure to environmental conditions like pesticides.
Is there any way to prevent it?
Well, as part of my study, I tested many ways to prevent exposure to Drufo. I found that the chemical was mostly absorbed through the skin and ended up in the respiratory system. So to avoid this, people should wear long sleeve clothing and wear medical grade face masks like N95.
So moving on, are you familiar with Dakota Weirs' case?
Yes, I reviewed her medical and employment records.
And how does Weirs' case relate to your study?
Since Weirs worked at a landscaping company and was in contact with products containing Drufo, she was very similar to the experimental group with prolonged exposure in my study.
Could you tell us what your professional opinion is on Ms. Weirs' diagnosis?
Given that Weirs was exposed to Drufo regularly for 4 years without protective gear, I truly believe that Weirs' case of non-Hodgkin lymphoma was caused by
Objection, Your Honor. This is beyond the scope of the witness. She is not an expert in terms of giving a medical opinion.
Response, Counselor.
Your Honor, I didn't ask for a medical opinion. I asked for just a basic opinion on what she believes regarding Ms. Dakota's case.
Any additional record from defense?
Yes, Your Honor. She is explaining what caused Dakota's cancer, and surely this is a medical opinion because she's diagnosing her.
Overruled. The opinion of this witness will go to wait. You may answer and continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Do you need me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
So in your professional opinion, what is your professional opinion on Dakota's diagnosis?
Given that Ms. Weirs was exposed to Drufo regularly for 4 years without protective gear, I truly believe that Weirs' case of non-Hodgkin lymphoma was caused by prolonged exposure to Drufo.
And how did you get to this conclusion?
Weirs' medical record indicated Drufo, or foreign particles from Drufo, diffused through her skin and lung tissues. This damaged their cells, and the particles accumulated in their lymph nodes, which overwhelmed the lymphocyte cells, resulting in cancer.
Do you have any reason to believe at all that it could be caused by other products?
In my professional opinion, I don't.
Thank you, Your Honor. That will be all.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Go ahead.
You've had published work before, correct?
Yes.
However, this particular study you talk about in your witness statement that you conducted on the safety of Drufo has never been published in a scholarly article, correct?
Not as of now, no.
Okay, let's dive into this study. We can start with the basics. You knew which participants were exposed to Drufo and which participants were not exposed to Drufo when conducting your study, correct?
Yes.
So it's safe to say your experiment was not a double-blind experiment, correct?
No, it was not. I did not think it was necessary for this type of research.
But double-blind experiments are the standard of studies, correct?
And in my professional opinion, I didn't believe it was necessary.
Doesn't a double-blind experiment leave room for bias?
Some, but I think we did a very good job, me and my research team, to prevent that from occurring.
Thank you. Moving on. In this study of yours, you decided to compare a control group of people who had never been exposed to Drufo, a group of people working with Drufo on occasion, and a group of people working with Drufo on a daily, correct?
That is correct.
But you didn't compare users of fertilizer with Drufo to users of fertilizer without Drufo, correct?
Through my years of research, I figured it didn't fit my study best.
In doing this, you don't know if Lush fertilizer is the only fertilizer that would produce these results, correct?
I took into account the other outside factors when developing this study and decided that this was the best way to go about it. So those factors were, in my professional opinion, taken into account, but not reflected in the study.
Okay. In the groups you did use, you had farm laborers versus casual gardeners versus people who don't do either of those things, correct?
Correct.
Wouldn't you agree that farm laborers and gardeners are exposed to environmental conditions and chemicals that people without these professions wouldn't encounter?
I would agree, but like I said, my study takes into account that those environmental factors were not what I was looking at. I was looking at Drufo, and I decided after my years of research, my long history working with studies, that it wasn't best for this situation.
That could include pesticides and plant foods, correct?
It could.
But this
like
study,
I decided it wasn't enough to take into account in the research.
it does not account for any other pesticides or plant foods, correct?
It does not, because I didn't believe it was necessary.
So you cannot definitively say that Drufo was the sole cause of Dakota's cancer because you don't know about these other chemicals.
As a scientist, I cannot definitively say anything. No scientist can say prove or definitively with beyond reasonable doubt. And I believe beyond reasonable doubt that that's not the case in this study.
Okay. You still chose to compare these three groups with this knowledge, correct?
Yes.
And just to clarify, Dr. Rogers, this study is the first time anyone has ever heard of it?
Yes,
Okay, thank you. It's never been peer reviewed, yes or no?
not yet, no.
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Response, counsel?
Yes, I'm going to ask an additional question right now.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. The standard practice of any worthwhile study is, of course, to have been replicated, correct?
Yes.
Wouldn't you agree that your study could only have been validated more if we had other people try it and see if they got the same results?
There are numerous studies that found that Drufo is not safe to work with. And while my exact results haven't been replicated, there are studies that find the exact same ideas.
Okay, my question might have been confusing. This particular study, it would only have been validated more if we had other people try your exact study and see if they got the same results, correct? Yes or no? Okay, thank you. And this study of yours is the groundwork of the plaintiff's entire case, correct? Yes or no?
I know the plaintiff has more evidence than just the study. I'm just here to help spread awareness.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Thank you, counselor. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Dr. Rogers, could you tell us if your study had proper conclusions, like if it was conclusive or not?
Yes, it had proper conclusions. It was very highly conclusive.
And that means essentially that your study was quote unquote successful. Yes.
It was, yes.
And could you remind us how many publications you have?
I have so many, it's hard to keep track of. I believe as of now 6.
Wonderful. Thank you. That'll be all, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, counselor. Any recross?
No further cross, Your Honor.
This witness is excused. Counsel, any other witnesses?
Sorry, Your Honor. Could you please repeat that?
Any other witnesses on behalf of the plaintiff?
No, Your Honor. The plaintiff rests.
All right, thank you. All right, counsel for Team Rose, your case. If you want to call your first witness, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. The defense calls Skylar Weirs to the stand.
All right, counsel, your witness. Thank you.
Please state and spell your last name for the court.
My name is Skylar Weirs, Weirs.
Ms. Weirs, what is your job?
I'm an investigative journalist for the Rationalist magazine. I'm also a waitress, but my true passion is with journalism.
And what type of magazine is Rationalist?
Rationalist is a science education and advocacy magazine. This means that we encourage all of our readers to look at the scientific facts behind a highly politicized topic before they come to a conclusion. So for example, when I wrote mine about Drufo, I read every single scientific fact there possibly was to learn about Drufo before I came to a conclusion on whether or not it was safe.
What types of articles do you write for Rationalist?
My most prominent articles have to do with individual health and corporate policy, and some of my most successful articles in these areas have been published in high-profile scientific magazines.
How is a background in research of individual health and corporate policy relevant to this case?
So I spent an entire year researching modern agritech, including Drufo. This meant I read publications by agritech companies. I reviewed different articles that were referenced in these studies, as well as tracked down information from the United States Department of Agriculture, as well as the National Association for State Departments of Agriculture. And this eventually led to me writing an article that questioned the link between Drufo and cancer.
When did you write this article about Drufo?
I wrote this article about Drufo before Dakota was even diagnosed with cancer. So none of my feelings about Dakota influenced my article, and nothing in my article influenced my feelings about Dakota.
Where did you get your education from, Ms. Weirs?
I do not actually have a college degree.
What are your qualifications then?
My qualifications include general knowledge as well as statistical and historical information. The amount of time that I've spent researching this topic is something that a college classroom could never have given me.
What was your role in this case?
I was required by the defense to talk about my research on commercial agritech and GMOs. I have a very vast knowledge of agritech, which includes agriculture and horticulture.
What exactly is modern agritech?
Modern agritech is the use of technology to improve the efficiency of agricultural products.
Your Honor, the defense offers Skylar Weirs as an expert witness regarding modern agritech and the effect of pesticides pursuant to Rule 702 to share her opinion on the safety of pesticides, herbicides, and other agritech products.
Counselor, thank you. Counsel, any objection?
Permission to perform a brief voir dire, Your Honor?
Of course.
Ms. Weirs, do you have any sort of degree?
I do not. However, I have researched extensively on this topic.
Do you have any sort of formal education in agriculture?
Like I said, I've done extensive research that gives me more of a perspective than a college classroom ever could have.
Do you have any degrees that pertain to science?
I do not. However, like I said, my research
Answered.
I asked if she had a degree to science, and previously I asked if she had any formal education in agriculture, which I believe are two different fields.
Overall, the witness can answer.
Are you a researcher, Ms. Weirs?
I'm an investigative journalist.
Are you a scientist?
I'm not, but I work with lots of scientific topics.
Your Honor, I move to prevent Skylar from being an expert in agriculture and that she may not make any comments regarding Dakota's medical diagnosis or the effects of Drufo.
Thank you for that record, counsel. The court is going to allow this witness to testify as an expert pursuant to 702 based on experience. All right. Counsel, your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. You say you came to your expert conclusion through your research with Rationalist. Tell us more about this.
So recently, Drufo has been the target of many conspiracy theories in the agritech community. And since Rationalist is a magazine that works with that sort of topic, I decided to do some research on it.
How so?
So people that are afraid of change have been spending millions of dollars to destroy Lush's reputation because they know that Drufo can overpower their business.
What do you mean when you say Drufo could overpower their businesses?
Well, we know that Drufo is a bonding agent, which means that less fertilizer needs to be applied than the average.
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
Response.
Your Honor, this is not speculation. The witness is merely clarifying herself. This is not for the truth of the matter asserted.
Overruled. The witness can answer.
Thank you. Did you finish explaining your answer?
Will you ask the question again?
What do you mean when you say Drufo could overpower their businesses?
So Drufo is in fact a bonding agent, which means that when you apply Drufo fertilizers, you don't need to apply it as much as you do the normal fertilizer.
How does this work?
Drufo bonds top grass to the 3 active ingredients in a luscious fertilizer, which is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And this prevents the ingredients from washing away quickly, so Drufo doesn't need to be applied as often as a regular fertilizer.
What are the benefits of fertilizer not needing to be applied as often?
These chemicals that are in Drufo specifically don't need to be applied as often to reach optimum yield, which will minimize nitrogen penetration.
Why is minimizing nitrogen penetration so important?
So Drufo reduces solubility of lush, which means that
Objection, Your Honor, out of the scope of witness.
Response, counsel?
Your Honor, this witness has been accepted as an expert witness regarding modern agritech and the effect of pesticides. Surely she's qualified to speak on this.
Overruled, the witness can answer.
I'll repeat my question. Why is minimizing nitrogen penetration so important?
Drufo reduces lush's solubility, which makes it much less likely to contaminate groundwater and waterways, which when this contamination it can eventually lead to cancer and adverse reproductive outcomes, which is very, very bad for the environment.
Okay, so Drufo minimizes nitrogen penetration. What about the pesticides in fertilizer though?
Lush doesn't actually have the same amount of pesticides as a normal fertilizer will, which means that it has less glyphosate and arsenic.
And why is less glyphosate and arsenic so important?
Because there is a much clearer link between these 2 pesticides and cancer. Drufo eliminated the exposure to both of these pesticides.
Ms. Weirs, in your expert opinion, did you reach any conclusions about this case?
I did. In my expert opinion, Lush fertilizer is just as safe, if not even more safe than any other fertilizer. Dakota is blaming the only thing that was designed to keep her safe, meaning that Drufo was not the risk of her cancer.
You've chosen to take a side against your sister. Why?
I'm not here to take a side against my sister. I'm merely here to speak on the side that I am most passionate about.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Thank you, Counselor. Any cross?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead, ma'am.
You work for the Rationalist, correct?
I do.
And the Rationalist Society promotes scientific skepticism, correct?
Not necessarily. Can you explain your question a little more?
In your witness statement, Ms. Schuyler, you stated that the Rationalist promotes scientific skepticism and pseudoscience.
Yes.
Or prevents pseudoscience.
Yes. It prevents it.
Should I re-ask my question?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the Rationalist Society does promote scientific skepticism, yes?
Sure.
So what's to say that your articles and current standing in the case are not under the same agenda?
Because the articles that I'm writing in this case are the ones that I'm the most passionate about, and I've done all of the research I can to put the truth in my articles.
And yet you work for the Rationalist, which means that you do what they would want you to, correct?
I do what I feel the most passionate about.
Moving on, Ms. Weirs, you claim that you've done extensive research on Drufo, correct?
I have.
However, you've only been working on Drufo for a year.
Yes, but I've put more research into it than that.
And you claim that Dakota's cancer could be caused by numerous other products that she works with, yes?
It could be.
But you yourself said that Drufo is a known harmful chemical.
It is, but that couldn't be the #1 factor of her illness.
If it wasn't the #1 factor of illness, wouldn't other products have shown up in her medical reports?
I did not see the medical reports, so I can't speak on that.
Moving on, is it true that your parents were helping you pay off gambling debts?
It is, but that has nothing to do with my reporting or what I have to do with this case.
I'm purely trying to lay a foundation of your relationship with your family.
Okay.
Was it both of your parents that were helping you, or was it just your mother?
It was just my mother.
So you don't have the best relationship with your father, correct?
I don't, but I don't see what this has to do with Dakota.
I'm laying foundation, if that helps clear up what I'm doing.
Can you please repeat your question?
I asked that she doesn't have the best relationship with her father.
Objection, speculation.
Response.
Your Honor, this isn't speculation, as this is the witness's own father that we are talking about, and I'm asking her to.
Overruled, and the witness may answer.
Could you repeat the question, please?
So you don't have the best relationship with your father, correct?
I don't see what my relationship with my father has to do with this specific case.
But you don't, yes?
Yes.
And you fell out because of your decision not to go to college, correct?
Objection, relevance.
Response.
Your Honor, I'm trying to lay a foundation for my later questions, which pertain to Dakota Weirs.
Overruled.
Could you repeat the question again, please?
And you fell out because of your decision to not go to college, correct?
We did, but that was my decision and I stand by it.
And he even cut you off, correct?
He did, but yes, he did.
So when you heard that your father was more than willing to pay Dakota's medical bills, you weren't so happy seeing how supportive he was, yes?
Maybe not, but now I'm making my own money, so I don't see how that's a problem.
And you even think that he might cut you out of the will, correct?
Yes.
Relevance?
I'm still laying foundation. Sorry.
Sustain, move on, please.
Ms. Weirs, is it true that you often told your own twin that she was ruining the family legacy?
Every siblings have fights and arguments. I don't see if something just said in passing why this is so relevant.
Well, in the statements, it says that you often told her this, which seems to be more than just a passing statement.
Okay, yes.
And you think that she was wasting all of your father's money and with her medical bills?
I did, but these are all said in arguments. Every sibling fights.
Yes, but they still hold impact, correct?
Yes.
That'll be all, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Redirect.
No, Your Honor.
All right, this witness is excused. Before the defendant calls the next witness, I'm just going to remind both teams regarding Rule 404.4 unauthorized communication during trial, just as a reminder. All right, counsel, next witness.
The defense calls Blake Doncourt to the stand.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, counsel.
Please state and spell your last name for the court.
Blake Doncourt, D-O-N-C-O-U-R-T-T.
What is your profession and involvement in Lush?
I'm the Chief Executive Officer and founder of Lush Fertilizer.
How does Lush manage its profits?
We're quite a successful company, so we're able to donate 10% of our annual profits to charities hoping to reduce the world's global nitrogen footprint.
All right, I'm going to stop. Counsel, if you, or Ms. Doncourt, if you can move closer to the microphone. The court's having a difficult time hearing you, and I believe opposing counsel as well.
All right. Would it be, Your Honor, would it be okay if I use
Whatever you just did, keep it.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Would you like me to restate the question?
Yes, please.
How does Lush manage its profits?
We're quite a successful company, so we're able to donate 10% of our annual income to charities hoping to reduce the global nitrogen footprint. Along with that, we've created a lot of state and national legislation hoping to educate others on how to keep the world clean. And we also have created our own charity that cleans up polluted areas of the world's ocean.
Have you or Lush ever been recognized for your contributions to the environment?
Yes, we both have. I was recently nominated for the United Nations Champions of the Earth Award, and Lush has won the prestigious SEAL Award for Business Sustainability.
As a company and CEO, What are your values?
We will always value safety, both safety of the environment and of our consumers. Safety will always be a top priority for us.
And how do you personally feel about your company?
I'm very proud of our company. We've been very successful, and I think we have greatly impacted the world in a good way.
And would you ever value money over safety?
Objection, relevance.
Your Honor,
Response, counsel.
this pertains to the case.
How so?
I'm about to ask more questions following.
Court will overrule, but and give you a little bit of leniency. Go ahead.
One of your main priorities is safety, correct?
Correct.
And you say that safety is more important than money, correct?
Yes, of course.
What are your qualifications for your research?
This has been my career. I started this I founded Lush in the 2000s. This has been my entire career. This has been my life. This is my passion.
And how long have you had this company?
As I just stated, this company was founded in 2000.
And what about Lush makes it different from other fertilizers?
We have a bonding agent called Drufo, which allows you to use less of the fertilizer.
Based on your research, do you think?
I'm gonna ask, because opposing counsel was not able to hear that, I don't believe. Neither was the court.
Your Honor, would it just be easier if I used one of my partner's computers for audio and microphone?
Whatever you're doing now, Ms. Doncourt, staying in role, it's perfect. So I'm not sure what keeps changing, but whatever you're doing right now, just keep that flowing.
Okay, I sincerely apologize. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what's going on.
You do not have to apologize about technical issues. Go ahead.
Would you like me to restate the question?
Yes, please.
What about Lush makes it different from other fertilizers?
We have a chemical bonding agent called Drufo, which allows consumers to use the product less often.
There you go. Your audio is cutting out. Continue.
Which allows you to use the product less often.
And based on your research, do you think that Drufo is harmful?
I have never seen any valid scientific evidence that Drufo is dangerous.
Your Honor, may opposing counsel go back to the previous question?
I'm sorry, counsel?
Your Honor, may opposing counsel restate their previous question?
Of course.
Yes. Based on your research, do you think Drufo is harmful?
I have never seen any scientific evidence or studies that states that Drufo.
Your Honor, we can't seem to hear the witness.
I'm so sorry about that. Would it just be easier if I used?
Go ahead, because it keeps going in and out. Yep, go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. So sorry about that, guys.
That is much better.
I'll restate the question. Based on your research, do you think Drufo is harmful?
I have never seen any valid scientific studies or evidence that states Drufo is dangerous.
Why isn't there a warning label?
All of our research before we put the product out on the market, along with our toxology research, did not find anything that would require a warning label, along with the EPA did not find anything that would require a warning label on our product either.
And if there was proper science and research to support possible danger, what would you have done differently?
At a minimum, we would have put a warning label on our product. But if our product really was dangerous, I never would have allowed it into the market.
And Ms. Weir's claims you do not bake fertilizer in order to save money for your ex, Morgan. How do you feel about this?
These claims are absurd and false. I make more than enough money to pay my ex-husband a large amount each month, as well as currently support me and my new boyfriend. I make more than enough money.
Why didn't you bake your products?
We have no reason to believe that we needed to bake our products. We do try and maintain as a sustainable business, and we had no evidence to believe that we needed to bake our products.
So was Lush ever advised of possible risks?
Carson Durst is going to claim that there was an email that was sent out that was carefully drafted so there would be no paper trail, but those reports were given to me and they stated that there was no dangers in Drufo.
And explain your connection with Carson Durst.
He was a close family friend who was in our research, who was an intern with us. It was his job to research into our products and find anything potentially dangerous in them. If he did find anything dangerous, he was supposed to, do more research and look into them. And if he did find anything dangerous, he had every opportunity to come to me personally or the company at large to voice these concerns.
So ever since Carson Durst has left Lush, what is the new occupation?
He is now working for Terra's Greenery Incorporated.
Please shift your attention to Exhibit 5 that has already been admitted into evidence. Ms. Doncourt, do you have a clear and unmarked copy in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Please describe what is Exhibit 5.
It's a non-compete agreement between me and Carson Durst.
Is it a standard for Lush employees?
Yes, we have trade secrets that we like to keep within our company.
So again, who signed this?
Me and Carson Durst.
What would happen if Carson Durst disclosed any information to Terra's Greenery?
If given enough evidence, Lush could take legal action.
And do you sympathize with Ms. Weirs?
Yes, of course I do. She's sick and I feel awful, but I am confident that my product had nothing to do with that.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Thank you, counsel. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Hello, Ms. Donker. I'm going to be asking you a few questions today. You are the CEO of Lush Fertilizers, correct?
Correct.
And Ms. Donker, your company is environmentally based.
Yes, we do try and keep the environment in mind when we create our products.
Meaning before any product is released to the public, it would be well researched.
Yes.
This would include one of your main bonding ingredients, Drufo.
Yes, we did research it a while before it was placed on the market.
And didn't Drufo have a multitude of in-house and external studies?
Yes.
And didn't Senior Product Manager Gary Langley summarize all these findings into one weekly report?
Yes, he did. Or she did.
This would mean that the carcinogenic qualities of Drufo in mice would show up.
Yes.
And didn't senior management issue a Lush in-house study of carcinogenic qualities of Drufo?
Yes.
Which was issued in an email that you were a main recipient.
I have never seen this email outside this litigation, though.
Your Honor, may I present Exhibit 4 into evidence? The authenticity has been stipulated.
Any objection, counselor?
No, Your Honor.
Mrs. Doncourt, would you read the second paragraph?
Yes, 1 second. I need to grab the email. Would you like me to read the entire second paragraph?
Just the first sentence.
Following our lab's June Drufo study, concerns have arisen regarding generalized findings of potential carcinogenic qualities identified in samples produced during a period early in the year.
And Mr. and Mrs. Doncourt, would you look at the senders of this email?
Yes.
And you and Carson Durst are both included in this.
Yes, but I have never seen this email outside of this litigation.
But it was a confidential email, and it was a very high confidential email, meaning it must have come up.
I have never seen this email outside of this litigation.
Okay, moving on. Your Honor, may I have opinion of co-counsel?
Yes, counsel.
Ms. Doncourt, would you read each sender of the email?
Yes. Aaron Steffens, Adam Ginn, Alex Monroe, Brad Sherlock, Brown Yadaby, Carey, Carson Durst, Blake Doncourt, John Smith, Judy Bishop, Paula Duvall, Ryan Hewitt, and 7 others.
And this clearly states that your name was in the email.
Yes, it was, but I've never seen this email outside of this court case.
So, Ms. Doncourt, you're saying that you have never seen a confidential...
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered.
Response, Counselor?
I'm just trying to make a point here.
Sustained. Go ahead and move on.
Alex, Mrs. Donkert, since you were involved in the in-house study that Lush itself conducted, you probably did hear Alex Monroe's comment on the link between Drufo and non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
Probably, but I can't remember anything at the moment. I apologize.
Now, moving on. Mrs. Donkert, you went through a lengthy divorce this year,
Yes, I did.
and your wife won a significant.
Objection relevance.
I'm laying a foundation for my point.
Try to get to the point, Counselor. Thank you.
And Mrs. Donkert, and your wife won a significant amount?
Yes, he did.
Okay. Your Honor, may I present Exhibit 8?
You may.
Now, Mrs. Donkert, could you just look through this exhibit?
Yes.
Now, baking Drufo would only limit a 2% loss in profit for you, yes?
Correct.
And as a company that values environmental and human safety at such a high standard, that means that 2% should be placed below your environmental standard?
Drufo is an environmentally safe product. It's better for the environment than other fertilizers.
Yes, but is it safe for people?
We have never seen any scientific studies, and I have never heard of any other evidence that states that it was unsafe for people.
But Mrs. Donkert, you in your own testimony said that you were recommended to bake Drufo as a precaution.
We were recommended as a precaution, but once again, I had no reason to believe we needed to bake our products.
So if Drufo does believe in the most safest amount for its users, that means that taking a precaution would have been worth it, yes?
Well, not necessarily. We have to be a sustainable business. We had no reason to believe we needed to bake our products, so why would we?
That is all, Your Honor.
Thank you, Counsel. Redirect.
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, this witness is excused. Counsel, if you want to call your next witness.
Your Honor, permission to call, Dr. Devin Williams to the stand.
You may.
Doctor, could you please state and spell your last name for the court?
My name is Dr. Devin Williams, Williams.
And Dr. Williams, what is your job?
I lead the toxicology research and development labs at Lush Fertilizer. I am also the outgoing chair of the company's ethics committee.
And could you please explain exactly what it is you research as a toxicologist?
I'm a research toxicologist by training and work to understand how biological systems respond to environmental interventions. Now, whether that is alcohol and neurochemical pathways or inorganic compounds and agricultural enhancing organophosphorus products, I see myself as having an inherent responsibility to also consider the why and if beyond immediate proper objectives.
And would you say that you are experienced in your field of work?
Well, I started my career with Lush over a decade ago, and I've led the toxicology labs for 7 years. So I'd say, yeah, I'm well experienced.
And what are your qualifications?
My education from undergrad through PhD was completed at Colorado State University in Fort Collins. I also did a specialized post-PhD program in pharmacotoxicology at the University of Utah. My work has taken me to various states, but I primarily work in my home state of Colorado now. And I hold various accreditations that are all listed on my CV, including certifications in Colorado, Wyoming, New Mexico, and Utah.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Can I just ask a question? I do not see the opposing counsel's, their camera is not on. Are they?
They are now.
I'm sorry, thank you. Just making sure. Your Honor, I move to admit Dr. Devin Williams as an expert in the field of toxicology.
Any objection, Counselor?
I would like to perform a voir dire.
Go ahead.
So, Dr. Devin, you were promoted quickly at Lush Fertilizers, right?
Sorry, could you restate the question? You cut out a little bit.
You were promoted quickly at Lush Fertilizers, right?
That is correct, yeah.
So it is in your best interest to protect the company.
I mean, I work for the company, yes.
I have no further questions.
And is there an objection to the qualifications of this witness being endorsed as an expert?
No, Your Honor.
All right, the witness will be endorsed as an expert, testify accordingly. All right, counsel?
Thank you, Your Honor. Doctor, what sort of tests do you perform to ensure the safety of your products?
Due to my training and experience, I am qualified to conduct tests using biomolecular and biochemical markers that tell me if a substance is going to harm the average person and how to neutralize any harms should they arise.
And even though you deemed it to be safe, Drufo-based products are banned in other countries. Why is that?
While the EU and many countries who follow the EU's testings have banned Drufo, it is not because of cancer risks. Under the European Union's nitrate directive, no new fertilizer formulations may be used that contribute more than incidental nitrate accumulations in lab tests. Although Drufo greatly reduces the amount of nitrates that accumulate in nature, it does.
Objection, that is improper evidence, character evidence.
Response?
I'm sorry, could you please elaborate on your objection?
The EU banned Drufo because of its carcinogenic effects. This was stated in the testimony.
Response, counselor?
I'm sorry, he's not denying that. He's not denying that fact. He's talking about the nitrate accumulation banning.
No, a moment ago, he said that the EU had banned Drufo, but not for cancer-related reasons, but this isn't true.
And do you have that in the statement?
All right, stop. The court's going to overrule the objection. You can inquire on cross-examination.
Would you like me to continue?
Should I restate that question?
Yes, please.
So even though you deemed it to be safe, why Drufo-based products have been banned in other countries? Why?
While the EU and many countries that follow the EU's testings have banned Drufo, it is not because of cancer risks. Under the European Union Nitrate Directive, no new fertilizer formulations may be used that contribute more than incidental nitrate accumulations in lab tests. Although Drufo greatly reduces the amount of nitrates that accumulate in nature, there is still nitrogen in it.
And is the amount of nitrates in lush fertilizer any different from other fertilizers?
No, it is true that if you pour some into a petri dish and add just the right bacteria, you will get just as many nitrates as with other fertilizers. But that's not what happens in nature. So the reality is that the EU bureaucracy chose to prohibit the use of fertilizers that reduce nitrates in nature because they don't do so under unrealistic laboratory conditions.
So then what are the benefits of Drufo in a fertilizer?
Fertilizers enhance the growth of plants in two ways, either by adding nutrients or by enhancing the effectiveness of the soil by modifying its water retention and aeration. Drufo does both. It is also more friendly to the environment. In the mid-20th century, fertilizer companies started using phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, and zinc in their fertilizers, which increased the production rate up to 800%. However, this led to the problem known as eutrophication.
And what is eutrophication?
In layman's terms, it is a buildup of excessive nutrients in bodies of water caused by agricultural runoff. This causes mass algal blooms, which can be harmful to environments, fish, and more importantly.
Objection, hearsay, none of this is stated in the affidavit of the witness.
Response, counselor.
Your Honor, as an expert in the field of toxicology, the topic and concept of eutrophication is very relevant to both Dr. Devins Williams' research and this case.
Overruled. The witness can answer.
I'm sorry, should I ask the question again?
Yes, please.
What is eutrophication?
In layman's terms, it is a buildup of excessive nutrients in bodies of water caused by agricultural runoff. This causes mass algal blooms, which can kill environments, fish, and more importantly, it can be harmful to humans.
And what is so different about Drufo then?
Drufo binds with the ingredients in the fertilizer to the grass and plants on which it is sprayed. As a result, less fertilizer needs to be sprayed, thereby interrupting the whole eutrophication process at the very beginning. I can certainly give you a more complex description of this whole process. You don't get a PhD for knowing things only at a superficial level. However, I'd have to use words like coagulated hydroxylopathy and phosphate precipitate. The point is, Drufo is a revolutionary product that is far better for the planet and for people than the old generation of fertilizers.
So why is it, do you think, that a few people who have used Drufo have developed non-Hodgkin lymphoma?
It's simply probability. If you take a large group of people, a small number of them will develop non-Hodgkin lymphoma. That applies to any group of people. So you take a large group of people who have used Drufo, and a small number of them will develop the disease. Those same people might have developed the disease, however, even if they had never used Drufo. The data we have analyzed shows that people who use fertilizers with Drufo have a no greater likelihood of developing non-Hodgkin lymphoma as people who use other fertilizers.
And you read Dr. Casey's research, and Dr. Casey's research is contrary to yours. Why do you feel like his studies are improper?
As a true expert in this field, I believe Roger's studies should be deemed invalid for numerous reasons. In my last statement, I compared users of fertilizers with Drufo to users of other fertilizers. This is because you have to compare metaphorically apples to apples in order for a test to be deemed conclusive. Dr. Roger in this study, however, compared farm laborers to gardeners to people who aren't in those types of jobs.
And what is wrong with those types of comparisons?
That's comparing apples to oranges. Farm laborers and gardeners are exposed to a variety of different products and environmental conditions that people who aren't in those types of jobs don't encounter. It is also possible that farm laborers and gardeners have a higher incidence of non-Hodgkin lymphoma. If that is true, then the groups of people Dr. Roger looked at would have a higher incidence of non-Hodgkin lymphoma for reasons other than Drufo. Next, Dr. Roger's study has not been peer-reviewed, and more importantly, it has not been replicated.
And why do things like replication and peer review of studies, especially in science, matter?
The history of science is replete with scientific results that could never be duplicated. Sometimes this is because the one study was a fluke. Sometimes, however, it is because the person doing the study was biased. Dr. Rogers' career has been focused on finding harmful effects caused by chemical agents. Dr. Rogers' financial bias in this case is far too great for his studies to be deemed conclusive.
And do you find anything else wrong with Dr. Rogers' analysis?
Scientists have a tendency to tailor and focus on certain aspects of a study in order to produce or find the desired outcome. This is why in the field of science, we prefer to conduct all of our tests double-blind. What this means is the scientist doesn't know which test group they are working with, and therefore they only report the true results. Dr. Rogers does not conduct any of his tests double-blind, and he always knew which fertilizers had which ingredients.
And Dr. Rogers, in your expert opinion, was Drufo the cause of Mr. Dakota Weir's development of non-Hodgkin lymphoma? I'm sorry, I apologize. Ms. Dakota Weir's development of non-Hodgkin lymphoma?
Absolutely not. There is no doubt that this is an incredibly sad case. It is horrible that the plaintiff has this awful disease. However, I can say with a degree of certainty that Drufo was not the cause. I know that ultimately Mrs. Dakota Wears develops non-Hodgkin lymphoma based off of reasons other than a Lush fertilizer product containing Drufo.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Thank you, Counselor. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
So you've been working with Lush for the past 10 years, right?
That is correct.
So would you say you're heavily involved in the company?
Of course.
And your success is dependent on the success of the company?
Yes, if the company fails, then I guess I would lose my job.
So you could stand to make a large profit if your testimony in this case goes well, correct?
It's not my job, no.
What do you mean by that's not your job?
My job is to lead the toxicology research and development labs. My job is not to be in court cases.
Yes, but for having this job, you would still be making a profit, right?
Yes, I do have a job.
And helping prove this case with Lush fertilizers can definitely help your career, right?
It will help the planet as Drufo is better for the planet.
Okay, well, moving on. Well, Lush fertilizers is sold globally, right?
That is correct.
But it's banned in the European Union and places like Haiti and Liberia?
Yes, because of having an accumulation of nitrates.
But regardless of this ban, Lush still sells to the European Union.
Correct.
So how do you do this?
Sorry, what do you mean by that?
I mean, if you still sell to the European Union with their Drufo ban, how have you been doing this?
Oh, the fertilizers we sell there do not contain Drufo.
But with how much you've emphasized on how important Drufo is to your product, why would you make this decision?
Well, we need to make money, and the way we make money is by selling our fertilizer, which means that if we sell our fertilizer in Europe, we will be making more money.
Right. So if Lush sells money to Europe, the European Union, you will get more profit too, right?
Sure.
So you did mention how you're trying to get the EU to unban Drufo, right?
That is correct.
So wouldn't this entire case be really helpful in that, trying to get a large contender to get more money from?
Well, if the plaintiff side gets their way, then it would be horrible. All of our cases would be brought back to this, and I don't think we would be able to sell Drufo.
I mean, that is the intent of this case. But again, you would be gaining a lot of money if you were proven to be correct in this case, right?
Objection, Your Honor. That has already been answered, asked and answered.
Response, Counselor.
There's no sort of objection for me to not say something like that.
Sustained. Next question, please.
Well, you mentioned how you feel that in Dr. Casey's control experiments, they were trying to get a desired result, right?
Correct.
But couldn't you have just replicated the same thing with your testing in Drufo?
Sorry, can you explain that farther?
You said how you can, when you're doing an experiment, you can make the results to be something that you personally desire. So couldn't you have done this exact same thing to get a desired effect that Drufo is not carcinogenic?
I mean, I could have, but however, I did not.
Okay, well, I will be asking no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Redirect, Counselor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Dr. Williams, what board position do you hold at Lush?
I'm the outgoing chair of the company's ethics committee.
And how would you say that your position affects your studies and your the way that you carry yourself at Lush?
Well, that means that, of course, I conduct all of my tests in the most ethical manner.
And do you think that you would be on this ethics committee if you were not an ethical person?
No, I have to be an ethical person to be on the ethics committee.
And you already stated that you are, I'm very sorry, Your Honor. You have already stated that you are very experienced in your job. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So if you were to be, for any reason, fired from your current job, do you think you could find another job?
Oh, I have so much experience, and I don't think I will ever get fired. I play a huge part in this company. However, I think I could probably find a new job, yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
All right, thank you, Counselor. Any recross?
Yes, please, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
So you are a very intelligent man. You could get a job anywhere, couldn't you?
I don't think I could get a job anywhere, no.
You just said that even if you were not working at Lush with your qualifications, you could still get a job, right?
I could get a job in the field of which I work in. I don't think I could become an astronaut.
I wasn't saying that, sir. But again, this really, even if you get fired from Lush, then you're still going to have an area to make money, aren't you?
Like I said, I do not think I'm going to get fired from Lush. However, I'm not worried about finding new jobs.
I'm not saying you're going to get fired from Lush. I'm just saying that You can stand to make a large profit by doing all of this work, can't you?
Sure.
And so this entire case about trying to get Drufo banned from the European Union and helping the testimony in this case, you would make so much money, wouldn't you?
Your Honor, objection asked and answered twice.
Counsel,
I'm trying to get my point across. I'm so sorry.
the point is well received. Sustain, move on, counsel.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, may this witness be excused. All right, any further witnesses? Hearing nothing, all right.
Your Honor, the defense rests.
All right, thank you. All right. Team Lily, closing arguments, please. Counsel for the plaintiff, closing arguments, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Sorry, I apologize. Your audio didn't come through.
Go ahead, counselor.
Today, we saw a company trying to cover up their own tracks. A CEO who doesn't even know her own company's studies and is more stressed over her divorce than to care about her company's products. That is what we saw today. And the company never even bothered to test carcinogenic effects in humans, even though it was shown in rats. She didn't even see her own company's confidential email. What a sloppy job they did. But it all adds up when you look at it. They ignored tests and concerns from Carson. They did not execute the proper studies they should have, nor did they properly check all the effects of fertilizer on humans. And she didn't even check her own emails. Lush Fertilizer claims to be an environmentally beneficial company. But if that were true, they would have stopped Drufo after it was banned from the EU instead of making other products to capitalize on. Additionally, their expert witness, Skylar Weirs, has no professional education or any sort of credibility. She works for The Rationalist, which is a magazine that promotes scientific skepticism. And how does any of this qualify her as an expert? Not to mention her gambling issues and her family quarrels. She told her own twin that she was ruining the family legacy and taking all their family's money. Not only does this portray her as an incredible source, but it displays her character. And their last witness, Dr. Devin Williams, works for the company. So why would he be opposed to his company? And his opinions are biased and geared towards his job safety. It's common sense that they are protecting his own job and position. The defense today presented 3 witnesses: a CEO who didn't do proper tests on her own products, Dakota's twin, Skylar Weirs, who has long had something against her own twin, and lastly, Dr. Devin, who is the company's own employee with biased opinions. Members of the jury, what you saw today was the defense failing to do what they were supposed to, simply defend. Thank you, Your Honor. That will be all.
Counsel, thank you. From the defense.
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, members of the jury, may it please the court, my name is Christopher Dudzik, and I represent Lush Fertilizer, the defendant in this case. We appreciate your attention throughout this matter, and we thank you for listening to both sides equally, as you promised you would do during jury selection. Today, you have heard Dakota Weir's negligence claim against Lush Fertilizer, but we need to disagree. The defense offers every condolence to Dakota for this horrible, horrible disease, but we completely disagree with her claim. We remind you that Dakota Weirs believes Lush's failure to properly warn users about the dangers of its product is the sole cause of Dakota's cancer. You have seen that the plaintiff's claims and statements are full of neglect and grave irresponsibility. Now, after hearing all of the evidence from both sides, it's apparent that the only reasonable verdict to be returned is that of not liable. The defense has denied all claims of Drufo being a cause for non-Hodgkin cancer. Based on all of the evidence brought forth today, there are 2 main things we should ask you to remember. 1, the plaintiff was fully aware of the necessary precautions she should have taken when working with the fertilizer like Lush. And 2, Drufo is a revolutionary product that is far better for the planet and for people than other fertilizers on the market. It was made to help our world, so there was no reason for Lush to use Drufo other than the overall safety of all life on this planet. A great thing to keep in mind all throughout life is irresponsibility has grave consequences. This case is the perfect example of that. Dakota Weirs testified to great negligence in that she refused to wear any protective clothing. No evidence has proven that Drufo caused her condition. And today you heard from the plaintiff herself, Dakota Weirs. I want to try to paint a picture of Dakota's statement. She testified that the sole cause of her development of non-Hodgkin lymphoma is due to her use of Lush fertilizer. However, she admitted that she was told to cover her face and wear long clothes, but when she worked with these chemicals, but she chose comfortability when she specifically warned and told by her boss to wear protective clothing. Although it may have been hot, Lush isn't responsible for enforcing the guidelines that they set. For example, a car manufacturing company wouldn't be responsible for injuries that a driver of one of their cars suffered if they weren't wearing a seatbelt. The driver knew they should have worn a seatbelt, but chose comfort over safety and reason. The same has happened with Dakota Weirs. She knew the proper safety procedures and still chose to neglect them. She also testified to her usage and exposure of many other chemicals and lawn care products during her work. Also, on the well under oath, Blake Doncourt stated that she had never seen the email shown in Exhibit 4. She said this under oath while she swore to tell the truth. So this is not a sloppy conduct of her or anyone at Lush Fertilizer. You also heard from the lead product developer for Terrace Greenery, Carson Durst. Carson Durst testified that he worked his way up fast within Lush, but he also stated that Lush hired him right after college at AASU. He has also testified that he has such a close relationship with the Doncourts all throughout his life. You must ask yourself if there is any reason other than his expertise for Lush to hire Mr. Durst. I'm sorry. And he spoke of his role into the regard of the development of Drufo. He said that he had speculation of foul play within Lush. I'm sorry. And he had these major suspicions for months, but made absolutely no attempt to contact any sort of healthcare official or government agency. He wasn't qualified for his high-ranking position, and therefore, he was put on a performance improvement plan. Before he was even fired from Lush Fertilizer, he was already looking for a job with Lush's competitor, Terrace Greenery. Why? Because he knew that he wasn't qualified, and he realized that the people around him he worked with were starting to find that out. When he was fired, he said himself that he was seething with the Doncourts and with Lush. He even said today that he was still upset for his supposed mistreatment. He currently works for Terra's, Lush's biggest competitor, but due to his agreement, he cannot pass any sort of trade secrets. He's turned this case into a personal grudge match with the people he is so upset with. This case is overflowing with irresponsibility from the side of plaintiff. There's a preponderance of evidence saying that the only reasonable verdict to be returned is that of not liable. Thank you.
Counsel, thank you. Anything further from the plaintiff?
Yes, Your Honor, may I perform another closing statement?
You may.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. The opposing counsel never asked to, I'm sorry. I'm at a loss for words to, take any extra time from their first closing for after, and was never mentioned within the pretrial or before their closing to take any remaining time and use it for
Counselor, that is correct. The plaintiff did not motion for reserving any portion of closing argument. However, this court is going to allow a brief second close as the burden is on the plaintiff.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I begin?
You may, but please keep it brief, counsel.
I will, Your Honor. The defense claims that Drufo was revolutionary, but if that was true, then why are there so many campaigns and articles that have come out against it? If it was such a revolutionary product, why would that be there? And secondly, they claim that Dakota Weirs is being irresponsible, but the same could be said of Doncourt. She is the CEO of her own company and does not know of her own confidential emails, and she claims that she hasn't read them at all. And moving on from that, they claim that there were clear labels and that Dakota Weirs did not look at them. And yet those labels only show recommendations. Recommendations are not definite. Anyone would do what they are most comfortable with. And as for the seatbelt analogy, seatbelts are required, as this label wasn't a requirement, it was a recommendation. And lastly, they claim that Carson is trying to do all of this to get revenge. But if Carson wanted to get revenge, why would he not make his own case? Why would he not go up to Don Court and talk to him himself? There is no reason for Carson to be on this case for his own personal matters. However, Skylar does have that, as Skylar cannot make a case against Dakota Weirs, and Dakota is her own twin. That's all, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, Counselor, thank you. All right. Anything further from either side? All right,
No, Your Honor.
that does conclude all the evidence and the testimony. That concludes this trial, and now the evidence is in the hands of the jury, and they can begin deliberation. All right, counsel, thank you. All right, I will pass this back to the team moderator. Thank you.
So, Your Honor, we're just waiting for the scoring panelists to submit their scores. And if the court wants to maybe provide some feedback to the participants while we wait for the scoring panelists.
I would be happy to, absolutely. Tell me when I can provide that feedback, as I just on the previous, just to keep it consistent. I don't want to impact any of the scores. So I don't know if you want to wait until you receive confirmation that the panelists have submitted their scorecards. Or I can just
I
proceed.
think it's fine to provide feedback while they're telling their scorecards, unless they submit a chat to us saying that we're disruptive.
No, I would be happy to. All right, you guys, I want to ask if you feel comfortable, put your cameras back on, as I want to go ahead and try to speak to each one of you directly. So I have to start off. Each team, I was extremely impressed in how much you prepared for this. It's evident that you guys all put in a lot of work to do this. What I will say is your presentation, it was detailed, it was charismatic at the right moments, and which is good, right? In real life, you want to, this isn't television, but you want to keep the decision maker interested. And for this would be the jury panel, that's the score panelists. But you did a phenomenal job with that. The respect, each and every one of you were respectful, sometimes a little more so than what you need to be. One apology is fine, but just, I mean, it's better to be more respectful than not. That does impact the decision maker, it truly does. And each one of you, you were beyond articulate, and that's critical too. Couple things that I would suggest on the objections, and right towards the last, probably within the last 20 minutes, I got a kick out of it. Hopefully I didn't smile, because I'm trying to keep as monotone as possible. But both attorneys during the objection, you guys were just going at it. And I was just sitting there, and finally I had to just stop. And in the real world, that does happen. That happens all the time in my courtroom. And that shows compassion, but sometimes that could go a little far. So as you begin, and if you move forward, be mindful of that. Just state the objection, let this person that's sitting up here watching the show, let us make that decision. On that same token, wait for the court to make a decision. I know there was a lot of times that there was objections, and before the court could actually respond, you were just kind of giving up, so to speak. That might have been strategic, but wait, you might have won that objection. And on these objections, I was trying to keep it as even as possible with each of the teams, but wait for the court to rule on that objection because you might have won and you might have been able to get a little bit more evidence in. When you get tripped up, we all do it. You guys did a great job. You didn't stop, you didn't fall, you didn't succumb to all the pressure, you just kept going. That's going to take you so far in life. Just keep going, right? We're all human. You all need to remember that. Each and every one of us are human, but you tripped up on the words or whatever, just keep going. And you did that. Let me think what else. One thing, and I didn't really notice it too much, we have you guys did an amazing job with your demeanor. Be professional, upright. You did that, so I have no qualms with that. My final words is the way that you all presented. I wish those that appeared in front of me on a daily basis were as prepared and respectful and articulate. So with that, you guys feel proud about your accomplishments, whatever the outcome is. You all did a phenomenal job. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Your Honor, I did receive confirmation that we did get scores from the scoring panelists. So if the scoring panelists would be so kind as to give feedback, now would be the appropriate time for that.
Hi guys, can you hear me okay? Cool. I love doing this because I am so very, very impressed by how well put together and articulate each and every single one of you was. It really gives me hope, and for my profession, not that we're doing bad, but we can always be adding on great people to our roster. And I hope it's something you guys consider later on and keep doing mock trial, because it really makes a huge difference if you do decide to become an attorney. Doing the mock trial can give you such confidence in the courtroom, and I can see that already from all of you. I was taking notes throughout. I was really impressed. This is a complicated case. This is more complicated than mock trials that I've done before. It's usually a criminal matter or negligence related to like a physical action, not something related to like comparative damages and things like that. And I was really, really impressed with how well you grasped the concepts and were able to present them. Comments on plaintiff's opening statement, and this actually goes for plaintiff's closing, is slow down. Every sentence you say, make it sound like the most important sentence that has ever been uttered ever, because it is the most important sentence that you're going to be uttering. And make sure that people have the time to hear what you are saying. I got what you were saying, I heard what you were saying, but I want to hear the feeling behind it and why it's so important of what you're saying. Defense closing and opening. You guys picked a theme and you stuck with it throughout the case. I heard it come out on different witnesses' testimony. I think the doctor said apples to oranges, and you said that in the opening statement. I was really impressed with things like that. And you picked a theme, irresponsibility, and you stuck with it. And I think you did a really good job hammering that point home through the witnesses as well. And to the plaintiff's closing, the sloppiness aspect, I love that. I think that was a great theme. And if you incorporate that into the opening as well, I think that in carrying that through, I think that will be, I mean, you guys will be unbeatable. Some other things I noticed, yeah, I'm gonna echo Magistrate Field's comments. When it comes to objections, stick with it, do not give up. There are some times you're like, I'll move on or I'll wrap up faster. No. You don't wanna wrap up any faster. You are presenting your case how you wanna present it. So you're gonna let the judge tell you if you have to wrap up anything faster. I thought there were really good objections throughout. the aspect about impeachment in general, talking about somebody's statements, have those ready to go. Like in your questions that you're answering, have it written down. This is a page number. This is the statement. This is the exhibit. This is exactly what he said. Even have the quote right there ready to go. It's not the same in a courtroom. Impeachment isn't nearly as fun on virtual, but it is so fun to stand over somebody and be like, read that statement right there. Didn't you say you were betrayed? That's right, you were. So go forward on the impeachment. Comments on redirect and recross examination. The point of redirect is to respond to the cross-examination. The point of recross examination is to respond to the redirect. A lot of times it felt like somebody was trying to add on to their direct examination or their cross-examination a point that they either wanted to hammer home more or that they didn't fully get out. So make sure that you're responding to each thing appropriately. Witnesses are always my favorite part in these cases. You guys did an excellent job. I think I laughed many times throughout all of this. I'm sorry I was muted and you couldn't hear it, but you guys are funny. So keep that going. Let me see. Yeah, I think that's about everything that I have for you guys. Again, I was really, really impressed. I'm really proud of you guys. Never seen you before. Might not ever see you again, but I was really impressed and I wish you the best of luck in the rest of this tournament.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I mirror what Judge Fields and Aaron commented, all true. So I'll just add a few of the things that was also on my list. You know, the witnesses were really, really good. Each one of you played your character. And what that does in real cases is it actually enhances the credibility of the lawyer because the lawyer prepared the witness really well. And so that's what came across. And then in terms of preparation, I mean, each of you stayed within your time and made the points that you need to make in the time allotted. That's not always easy to do. And you all did that really well. One little cheat thing that I do for objections, because it's hard to just have all the rules at the top of your head. I have a little cheat sheet. It's just a checklist of objections that sits next to me at trial. And so that something sounds bad, right? I look at my cheat sheet and it's right there and has a quick definition I can recite off. And it makes it much easier instead of wondering, oh, which one is this? Have your little objection cheat sheet. That's it. Great job, everyone.
I also wanted to shout out the timekeeper. He did a great job. Kudos to Mason.
Thank you.
Your Honor and members of the jury, I have a question. Would you like for my team as well to have the timekeeper like in calls for next rounds? Because we weren't informed of how to do it. So I just.
Well, I think Mason was doing it for both of you guys, so I just assumed y'all picked one person to do it and he was doing it. And
we have our own timekeeper. It's just like we're keeping it projected on the board so like our team can see it. And there are a few comments from someone in there about time, but it's not.
You do whatever works best for you. All I could think during this is I would have loved to have something off the side for me if I were in trial. But do what's working for you. It made it like almost more dramatic having the 10-second countdown. I was like, oh my God, is she gonna wrap it up in time? Is he gonna do it?
Thank you.
There are supposed to be two timekeepers in the call at once. So
okay.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't aware of that, and so I just wanted to make sure.
And my response is, you guys, there's a manual, there's rules for the mock trials. Just review those, and that, you know, just moving forward, what the actual requirements are. But that is a very common question.
Well, I think we're finished. Thank you guys for participating. You did a wonderful job. Thank you, Magistrate Fields, for presiding over the trial, and thank you to the scoring panelists. Everybody's time is valuable, and we really appreciate it. We can't do it without you guys. Thank you.
Of course,
Thank you.
You guys are
Good
amazing.
luck to everyone.
Yep, good luck.